In this episode, we are going to be creating contact form for October CMS website. And as you will see, it will be pretty easy. That contact form is actually going to be a component so that you can put it on any page you like and you will have a contact form right there. Since it's going to be a component, I hope that you checked out previous 2 episodes where we talk about components, because you will need that knowledge to follow along with this episode. Before we start creating our contact form, let's just check out the documentation for sending mail. So as you can see on Docs Services Mail, you have some options. So first of all, you have some drivers that you can use. So the mail driver is going to be a thing that is sending your mail. So you can use Mailgun, Mandrill, and so on. We are not going to be using any of those. We are actually going to be using Google's SMTP service to send our email. So I hope you have a Gmail account and Gmail address so that you can use it to send your email, at least in this development phase. So if you go to config mail.php, you can see that you have some supported drivers. So SMTP, mail, send mail, mailgun, mandrill, log, and so on. So for now, since we are developing this site, we are going to use Google's SMTP service. But when you push your site live on most of the PHP hosts that you have out there, the only thing that you would need to change here or to set up here is just this. So you would just write either mail or send mail, and it will use PHP's mail function to send your emails. But as I said, since we are developing this site on our local machines, we are going to use SMTP. Okay, and next we need to set up our host. So the host is going to be smtpgmail.com. Okay, next thing is the port. The port is going to be 587. You can set up whatever you want right here. I'm not going to change this, but you can change this to either your email address or whatever. Encryption is going to be TLS. The server username is going to be your Gmail email address. So something like this. So something@gmail.com. I'm going to set this up behind the scenes, of course. The password is going to be some password. So this has to be your Gmail password. And then you have the send mail, you ignore that. You can set this to true if you want to get the notification if your email has been sent successfully in your log files. So if you set this to true, then whenever you send an email, it should be logged in this storage logs system.log. At the end of the file, the October will just write that the email has been sent successfully, and then you know that your email is set up good. That's about it. We are just going to send a 2 right here. So what this means is, so when you're developing your site, you maybe want everything that is being sent by email to be sent to the same email address, whatever you enter into email field. This is because you want to test it out. So whatever the user enters, whenever the user enters some email address, it's always going to go to your email address or email address that you set up here. So I'm just going to set this up to work with my email address so that I don't have to worry about that. But of course, when you push your site live, don't forget to delete this, because everything is going to be going to your email address. So you just set up your address right here, whichever that is. So it's going to go to your email. And that's about it. Now we set up our email, and next thing we need to do, we need to create our contact form component. So to create our contact form component, we are going to create a new plugin. So we are just quickly going to scaffold our plugin with the builder plugin. So let's just go right here, create a new plugin. And the name of that plugin is going to be, so the author is going to be Watch Learn, or whatever you are using for your movies plugin. That should stay the same. And the name is going to be Contact. So Contact, and that's about it. We just click OK. Wait for it to finish. And that's it. We don't need to create a database, although you could create a database right here, actually a table, so that whenever someone sends email to you, it would save that email to your database also, if you want. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. So we have created our new contact form plugin. And now we can, if we go to plugins and watch learn, as you can see, we have a new folder right here called contact. So I did that just so that I don't have to write this everything by hand. So as you can see, you have your plugin PHP file, you have classes, languages, updates, and so on. Okay, now let's create our contact form component, and we're going to call that component contact form. So just like we did for the actors component that is listing all of our actors. So I'm just going to click right here and create a new folder called components. And in that components folder, I'm going to create a file called contactform.php. Okay, so now we have components, contact form, and now I'm going to create a new folder called contact form, and inside of that, just like we did for the actors, we are going to create default.html file. Okay, so this is the folder structure that we need. So watch learn, contact, components, contact form, and contact form.php, and that's about it. We are going to need to set up something else, but we are going to do that a little bit later. So for now, we're just going to define our component. So first of all, we define a namespace. Okay, I'm just going to make this a bit smaller. Okay, namespace. So the namespace is going to be watch learn contact components. Okay, now we have to use the component base class. Okay, and now we have to extend that class with our class. So our class is going to be called contact form, and it's going to extend component base. So just like we did for the actors component that we did before, and now just like we did also for actors, we have to define component details. Okay, so the name is contact form, the description is simple contact form, and that's about it. We are not for this episode going to be defining any properties, although you could do that. When you define the properties, you can, for example, define an email property, so the email that you want your contact form to send your emails, and maybe a subject for the contact form or something like that. Okay, but for now this is enough. So we have component details. I'm just going to save this, and now we have to go to our plugin.php and register our component so that the October CMS knows that we have a component. We did this before, of course, so as you can see, we already have register components provided by builder plugin, and then we just return the namespace of our contact form and give it a name. And that should be it. Now let me just do this. Okay, save it. Now we can go to CMS. Of course, we have an error. Let me just see. So contact form PHP line 3. I messed up something there. So this maybe. Nope. I should really remember to put my semicolons in the code. Okay, now we have another syntax error. Let me just see on line 13. It's probably, of course, it's a semicolon. I always forget to put them on when I'm returning an array. Okay, so let's just add a contact page. So I'm just going to add a new page right here, and I'm going to call it contact. And the layout is going to be the default layout, and I'm just going to save this. As you can see, the URL is contact. And now if I just go right here to components, as you can see, I have this contact plugin that I created. Of course, I may have it would be better if I chose a better icon for our contact form, but what can you do? So we're just going to take our contact form and put it right here. And also I'm just going to add an h2 tag right here. Okay, and now save this. Of course, if I go to my site right now and go to the contact page, I will just get this contact page. Why? Because we still didn't enter anything into our default .htm. So the October doesn't have anything to show, any HTML to show for that component that we just added right here. Okay, so let's amend that and create our contact form. So I just added this behind the scenes because I don't want to waste your time or my time writing a simple contact form. So as you can see, it's just a form with some labels and input types. So the important things here are these names. So name is name, email for email, and your message, the name for message is going to be content, and button is type submit, and just send button. Also the CSS for this is already written. So if I go to my page right now and refresh it, maybe again, and maybe clear my cache. So now I would get this contact form that doesn't look hideous. It looks okay. So now we have our contact form. Of course, this doesn't work at all right now. As you can see, we don't even have the method of sending our emails right here in our form tag. We just have form, labels, inputs, and text areas, and that's it. Okay, so now we are going to go to our contact form.php, and we are going to create a function called onSend. And then we are going to tell the contact form to use that function to send an email. So this is where the power of October CMS comes into play and its Ajax framework. So I'm just going to create a public function called onSend. And now I can write my code for sending email right here. And since that public function onSend is going to be binded to our contact form, we can just use the inputs I actually input method to get all the data from the contact form and then send it. And if we check out the documentation right here, this is the code for sending emails. So sending email is just this. So I just copy this out, paste it right here, and I'm going to use just the same thing as on the documentation page, except the name and the user won't be user, it's going to be email, and the name is going to, email is going to be actually input. So input get email. So we are getting that email from our contact form. Also, the name is going to be input get name. The message to is going to be whatever. So it can be admin domain.tld, because in our config mail.php file we set it so that every email that is coming from our system is going to go to our email. So you can change this if you want. If you don't want to change it, you don't have to. And the subject is going to be something like new message from contact form. If we defined the properties for our component, we can, in the component options menu, we could set up that subject right here and call it just like we did from for the actors page, where we defined how many actors we want to display, or how our sort order is going to be. But for now, let's just keep it simple. So we are going to use this mail send message to and so on. Of course, we have to now bind this onSend function to our form.html, actually our form in our default.html. And to do that, we will just write data request onSend. So what this is going to do is actually send our email via Ajax. So it's going to use Ajax to send our email, so the page won't be refreshed, which is a good thing for us. So we don't have to worry about that. Okay, now back to our contact form. Let me just see. So we have name, input get name, input get email, and I think that's about it. Actually, it's not it. We have to define a template for our email. So in the documentation, you have something called mail views. And you can use them to send your email. You can of course send the plain text, or you can even send the email in line. But we are going to be using those views because I think this is a good way to keep your view of your email separated from everything else. And also you can create pretty looking emails if you want. So as you can see, to create it, you have to go to plugins, then author. So this is our namespace, plugin, the name of the plugin. Then you create folder called views, mail, and then message.html or whatever you want to call it. So let's just create that. So I'm going to go right here, click on the plugin, and I'm going to create views. Okay, now we have views, mail, message.html, and now we have a place to design our email. Of course, we are not going to design it in any way, shape or form. We're just going to create a simple email that is going to come to us. But as I said, if you wanted, you can make this email look really pretty. And of course, you can use tweak tags in those emails to display some data. So for example, we want to display the email of a person who is sending us an email from our contact form and an email address. So we can do that by doing something like this. And then we do name, since we are getting name from here. So name. And we are getting also email from here. So we can save that. And now we can just do something like, and then we put out the content of our message. So remember, our text area field has the name of content. And we forgot to put that into our variables that we are passing through to our email. So I'm just going to correct that right here. And that should be it. Okay, now we have set up our variables, we have set up our mail function, and we still didn't set up this piece of code right here. So with this piece of code, we are saying to the October which mail view to use. Currently it wants to use something like acme.blog mail message, but it should use watchlearn.contact. So watchlearn.contact, then mail, so it knows to go to views, mail and message. And that should be it. We can test our email right now. So let's refresh our contact page to see if we screwed something up. Okay, it seems we didn't. There are few mistakes that I left on purpose so that I can just show you how to debug them if you run into something like this. So I'm just going to write my name. Okay, and now if I click send, as you can see, the Ajax is working right here, but it says something like class watchlearn contact components input not found. So what is this? This is the input method or function that comes with Laravel and October CMS, and we didn't use it, but we actually did use it in our code, but we didn't say to October to use it. So to correct those kind of errors, you just go to the top of your file and do use input. And as you will see, the same thing is going to happen with our mail function. So if I do send again, as you can see, it's still loading right here. It says the mail isn't found. Okay, so we go right here and use mail. So this is the function that comes by default to Laravel and October CMS. Okay, so now I think everything should work. Okay, let's try to send our message. Okay, it didn't report any errors, and I'm going to check my email now to see if I got that message. So I actually did get that message, and as you can see, it says new message from contact form, and it's got the message of you got new message from Ivan at testexample.com, and the message is and this string of text. But I also get this mail delivery subsystem error because of this address. So I'm going to change the address right here. So admin.@domain.tld to my email address, and I will see if I get that error again. Okay, so I changed the email behind the scenes, and let's test this out again. And click send. And as you can see, I already got one message right here. And it says you got new message from John at test.example.com, and the message is this. And now we don't get any errors. I think it's that .tld that screwed it up. So it seems that October actually wants to send something to the email that we defined right here. Okay, so I think that's it for this episode. As you can see, it's pretty easy to create your own custom contact form for October. I know this has been a little bit longer episode, but once you get into that, I think you can maybe create some kind of a component like this in about 10 minutes. In the next episode, I am going to show you how you can validate this message. So as you can see, this is not perfect contact form for our site, because you can write anything in here and you can write anything in here and it will probably work. But in the next episode, I'm going to show you how to use the validator that comes with October CMS. It's really easy and it's going to be a short episode, I promise you. It's really easy, and you can validate the input fields of your messages. So it doesn't have to be just from contact forms, but it can be from any kind of forms that you have on your front end, where you can validate them and say, I want this input field to require at least 5 letters or just numbers, or for the email to validate the email, and so on. Okay, so this episode was a bit longer than I expected, but I just want to cover everything and explain everything as we go along. As you can see, there are a lot of other options on this page right here with examples, so I urge you to read this page so you can see how you can set a reply to, for example, or BCC for your messages, subject, attachments, and so on. Remember, everything we did here will be available for you on GitHub. The link will be in the description below. If you want to ask me questions, you can follow me on Facebook or on Twitter and ask them there. Also here on YouTube, in the comments down below. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the content I put out, maybe subscribe to my channel. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.